This is the story of how my girlfriend discovered my affair with her twin brother, something that started as a simple flirtation and ended up in a full-blown affair. Stay until the end to know this story. So make yourself comfortable, and we invite you to subscribe to the channel and activate the little bell so you don't miss any video. It all started as something I could never have imagined. My relationship with Sophia was perfect in the eyes of others. We had been together for 2 years, and in all that time we had never had a serious fight. She was funny, caring, and knew how to make me feel special. But behind that facade, something began to change inside me, and the person responsible for that change was Ivan, her twin brother. When I first met Ivan, I thought he was a more relaxed version of Sophia. Although they were identical physically, their personalities were like night and day. Ivan was more reserved, more mysterious. Whenever he was around, he seemed to analyze every word he said, every gesture he made, and that made me nervous in a way I didn't understand at the time. But it was at a family gathering where it all really began. Are you liking the video so far? If so, leave us a like and subscribe. Let's keep going. We were celebrating his mother's birthday. We were all in the garden, and while Sophia helped her mother with the preparations, Ivan and I were left alone. At first, we talked about trivial things, but then the conversation took an unexpected turn. Ivan looked me straight in the eye and said, "Sometimes I wonder what it would be like to be in my sister's place." The phrase took me by surprise, but more than his words, it was his tone that unsettled me. There was something in his voice, something that made my chest tingle. That night, I couldn't stop thinking about him. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw his face. I tried to convince myself that it was just nonsense, that I was misunderstanding things. But the truth was that there was something about Ivan that attracted me in a way I couldn't ignore. The following weeks became a whirlwind of emotions. Ivan and I began to spend more time together. At first, it was under the guise of innocent activities, accompanying him shopping, helping him with some work. But slowly, the lines began to blur. I remember one evening in particular when we were alone in his apartment. We were watching a movie, and without realizing it, our hands brushed. We didn't pull our hands away right away, and when we finally did, we were both blushing. "Is this wrong?" I asked, my heart pounding. Ivan didn't answer. He just looked at me, and in his eyes I could see a mixture of fear and desire. That's when he kissed me. It was a quick kiss, almost shy, but it was enough to ignite a spark that neither of us could put out. Our secret relationship began from that moment on. We saw each other secretly, always taking care that Sophia didn't suspect anything. But the more time passed, the harder it became to keep up appearances. Every time I was with Sophia, I felt guilty. She didn't deserve what she was doing. But when I was with Ivan, everything seemed to fall into place. With him, I could be myself in a way I had never experienced before. Before we continue, we invite you to like and subscribe. Let's continue. As our connection grew, the moments we spent together became more intense and meaningful. It wasn't just a physical attraction. With Ivan, I could talk about things I had never shared with anyone. One afternoon, while we were in his apartment, he confessed something to me that left me speechless. "I've always felt I was in Sophia's shadow," he said, staring off into the horizon. "She's always been the favorite, the perfect one. I never thought anyone could look at me the way you do." His voice trembled, and though I tried to comfort him, I realized how deep his pain was. It was at that moment that I understood that we were not only dealing with our emotions, but also with the weight of our personal histories. Ivan had always felt he needed to prove his worth, and my attention to him gave him a sense of validation he had never experienced. For my part, he was making me question everything I thought I knew about myself and what I really wanted in life. However, keeping our relationship a secret began to take its toll. There were nights when I felt like I was living a double life. I would come home to Sophia, trying to act like everything was fine. But in my mind, I could only think of Ivan. Every time she smiled at me or asked me how my day had been, a pang of guilt would run through me. It got to a point where it was even hard for me to look her in the eye. Not because I didn't love her, but because I knew I was betraying her trust in the worst possible way. One afternoon, while I was with Sophia in a cafe, Ivan suddenly appeared. When I saw him, my heart skipped a beat, but I tried to remain calm. He greeted his sister matter-of-factly and then turned to me with a smile that only I could interpret. Sophia didn't notice anything strange, but I was on the verge of collapse. After that situation, I realized that we were playing with fire and that it was a matter of time before everything exploded. We decided to be more careful, but the tension only grew. One night after I had been with Ivan, I returned home to find Sophia awake. Her face was serious, and before I could say anything, she asked, "Is there something you're hiding from me?" I froze. I didn't know what to answer, and my silence only made her suspicions grow. Regardless, I managed to deflect the conversation, but her question remained echoing in my mind. Our clandestine relationship continued, but each encounter with Ivan felt riskier. There was a constant danger of being discovered, and that only fueled the intensity of what we shared. However, we were also beginning to realize that we were approaching a point of no return. Don't forget to subscribe and like us for more content like this. Let's continue. The breaking point came one Saturday afternoon. Sophia had gone out to do some shopping, and I took the opportunity to meet Ivan at his apartment. We were so immersed in our moment that we didn't hear when Sophia arrived earlier than expected. The door burst open, and there she was, standing in the doorway with an expression of disbelief and pain that I will never forget. "What's going on here?" he shouted. His voice was charged with anger, but also sadness. Ivan tried to explain himself, but his words only made things worse. "How could you do this to me?" he shouted at me. "And you, Ivan? You're my brother." At that moment, I felt the world collapsing around me. I didn't know what to say, how to justify what we had done. All I could do was ask for forgiveness, though I knew that wasn't enough. Sophia ran out, leaving behind a deafening silence. The following weeks were chaos. Sophia didn't want to see me, and her relationship with Ivan was completely shattered. I tried to talk to her, to explain that I never meant to hurt her, but she couldn't look me in the eye without tears in her eyes. She told me that she needed time, that she didn't know if she could ever forgive me. On the other hand, my relationship with Ivan was also affected. Although we continued to see each other, the guilt we both felt was a weight we could not ignore. We began to question whether what we had was worth all the pain we had caused. Eventually, things began to calm down. Sophia finally agreed to talk to me, although her pain was still evident. "I don't know if I can ever completely forgive you," she told me, "but I want you to be happy, even if it's not with me." Those words scarred me deeply. I knew what I had done was wrong, but I also knew I couldn't change the way I felt about Ivan. I decided to move on with him, but I vowed to learn from my mistakes and never hurt anyone again the way I hurt Sophia. Although our relationship was not easy at first, Ivan and I managed to build something real. Looking back, I'm not proud of how it all started, but I'm grateful for the love we found in the midst of the chaos. And although the scars from that episode still remain, I know it was all part of a journey that led me to understand who I really am. If you liked the video and this content brought you value, leave us a like and share it with your friends so you don't miss it.